Thank you, Kurt and Jorge. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome all who gathered together today, here, there, and everywhere. This is indeed God's house, a place of prayer for all. I have a few community-related announcements today before we begin. I want to thank Marcy and Jamie for providing social hospitality today. If you would ever like to do that, there is a sign-up sheet on the table, and we are vacant through the whole rest of the summer. So it's a good time to sign up. I'm going to go ahead and ask Dale to come up and announce the meet group, and I'll let him handle that.
We've got to meet.
Yes,
The only reason Reverend Emma asked me to do this is because sometimes she gets confused with whether it's an MEET group or an MEAT group. So,
well, the team on the end of it, I want to add another team.
so we are going to be having on the first Sunday in July, we're going to be having a planning meeting with the MEET team, which is Meeting, Event, and Entertainment Team, MEET. And we would love to have any of you that are interested in working with us on an event that we're looking at doing the end of August, a special one, but also anything that will assist us in growth and outreach for the community. So we want to start planning. We have a good group that's come together for the bingos, et cetera, but we want to look at a more expansive group. And we have a great team, Genevieve, Margaret, David, but we want to add some very innovative thinkers and some hardworking people to help us with the MEET team.
When is it?
The first Sunday in July is when our meeting.
So it'll be July 7th.
July, yes.
Wonderful. Following worship. So make sure you remember that. I want to thank Genevieve and Vicki for cleaning the sanctuary and social area and the restrooms and everything. Y'all did a stellar job. I mean, a wonderful job. And I can't thank you enough. They came in here early when it was real hot and did all their stuff. So I want to thank you both. Thank you both so much. A lot of people contacted me. A lot of people are on vacation. A lot of people are traveling. And plus, it is just hot. Okay, so I almost didn't make it today. So you would have had to preach, Dale. I'm sorry. So that's yes. So if I call you early on a Sunday morning, make sure you take the call. I would appreciate that. Don't tempt me. I'm ready to do that today. Also, symbolic of being present here now, please take a moment to turn off your cell phones or set them to silent operation. Take a beat, take a breath. You are here among friends. Hold peace in your heart as you prepare yourself for our worship together, and wish peace to all, even those who do not wish peace to us.
Good morning, my name is T. And I'm the co-lead of MCC's Northern Virginia's Animal Rights Ministry. And cats. All animals, except pigeons. Now I know why you keep her in the corner. We bring illumination into our space this morning with our candles and words adapted from the Reverend Earl Holt. Today's words really resonate with me. They're very powerful. The possibility of transformation and renewal exists. It is in us. All around us are people whose lives, in ways large and small, have been transformed and renewed. Those who have overcome the loss of what was most precious to them in the world. Those who have won a battle with alcohol or other drugs. Those who have transcended the temptation to despair when life was at its darkest. Resurrection is not long ago, unique and unlikely event, but is potentially present in all human life. It is a promise and a challenge, for it represents the possibility of radical change, transformation, based on a radical sense of hope.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Fab. I'm so glad to be here. It felt forever. Please join together with me for the gathering words this morning as they appear in your printed program. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations. May we be inspired to bring our gifts of love to the altar of service. May the offerings of our talents and skills encourage each of us to look within as we face crisis, challenge, and opportunity, to reflect on all that we have as blessings, things seen and unseen, known and unknown, hidden and revealed, gifts and blessings in each one of us to nourish, connect, uplift, and build community. There is so much more to each of us than meets the eye. Let us be grateful for all of these gifts in ourselves and others as we join our hearts together in celebration, praise, and worship of the one God who made us all.
Well, the sun might be shining brightly outside, but inside here, it's even warmer. All these beautiful, friendly faces as part of this community, our MCC. So this week, I felt a lot like Roy Rogers. And how was that? Because I've been dealing with a lot of triggers. You know how things that you encounter on a daily basis will trigger something else immediately in you, and you think, oh my God, and it takes you back to another time, another place, something that hasn't healed. Well, of course, in today's society, if something triggers you, you immediately go to Google. If it's a health concern, you go to WebMD. If it's a psychological concern, there are many people that want to give you their opinion about how you should recover on Google. So as my first trigger of the week happened, I said, oh, let me Google that. And I went to Google it and I started, and I felt the Spirit inside say, why didn't you come to me first? Why didn't you come to God that you love and that you serve first? And then the second voice I heard was Lee going, stay off Google. Stay off Google. You cannot find the answers. Even the doctors will tell you, stay off Google. So I thought, okay. So I prayed about it and, found some scriptures. It was good. The second trigger came. I don't know about any of the rest of you, but I have a hard time dealing with control freaks. And there was a major issue this week with a person who did not want to feel like they were part of a team. They just wanted to be the one and the only one in control. I thought, oh God, this is triggering some things in me. This is really triggering some things. So before I say anything that is unchristian-like or whatever, I need to make peace with it. But the more I found that I wasn't going to Google and that I was praying and having quiet moments where I was adopting what the Word said, it certainly made me a different person. So I just want to encourage you, the next time you feel triggered, let it trigger you to pray. We want together as we come for a community, because we do come boldly before the throne of grace. We all have our own joys and our own personal concerns. We all also have a time when we come together to be beacons of hope because we care for one another and for our communities and for our world. We're here together as a presence for one another during times of sadness and concern, but also joy and celebration. Prayers of healing for Genevieve's mom, Janine. Continue to pray for her. Prayers of blessing and celebration for Reverend Gail Minnick, who was voted last Sunday as the next settled pastor of MCC Richmond. So you remember that Gail was in our midst, and now she will be the settled pastor of MCC Richmond. Joy and thanksgiving as they begin their journey together. Prayers of continued strength and healing for Denise as she recovers from back injury and gallbladder surgery. Continued prayers of healing and praise for T, for the thanksgiving of the wonderful spirit of determination that he has. And of course, we see it daily, and we're privileged to be a part of welcoming the wonderful opportunity that we see in his recovery. Prayers of strength and healing for our special angels as they continue to mount up over some different health things that they have. I hope that whenever the medical professional says something to you, that it will trigger for you not to be afraid, that your God is with you. Prayers of continued healing for Frank as he continues the process of seeking a liver transplant. And also journeying mercies as he goes back to West Virginia to hopefully close on his parents' home there. Prayers of journeying mercies for Starlene and Susan as they travel for a time of renewal and refreshment as they vacation. Continued prayers of healing and strength for Corey, that they will, Corey, find a time when they can set for you to have your treatment. Continued prayers of healing for Heather's brother, Steve, as he begins his chemo and radiation for 2 different types of cancer. Any update on that, Heather?
Taking catheter out because the pills they've been giving him has stopped a lot of the fluid buildup that was blocking his lungs. So they're expecting to take that out on Thursday. They've made the masks for him to do chemo, for the radiation. I'll see him tomorrow, and we'll talk more about it.
Got it. Definitely continued prayers for Steve and strength for his wife, Donna, as she cares for Steve. Also prayers of presence for his children and the entire family as they move through this challenging time. Prayers for Reverend Emma's sister, Dawn, and her husband, Scott, as they continue to grieve the death of their 15-year-old grandson. Cameron passed away from a rare and aggressive form of cancer. Prayers for his mother, Amber, and the entire family as they grieve together. We want to continue to be aware and pray for all the things that are going on in nations around us and in this country. Prayers for peace, presence, and to be recognizing the will of God. Prayers of calm and presence for Margaret. prayers of continued strength and healing for Alan Cook. I think it's interesting that sometimes you might be coming across people unawares that are put in your path just so they can say something that needs prayer. Today, Lee and I, as we do every Sunday before church, we're driving through a McDonald's to get coffee. And we noticed that our friendly lady that was there serving us seemed a little down. And we said, "Oh, we've been missing you." She goes, "Yeah, the boy's father died suddenly." And I'm like, "I'm so sorry to hear that." She goes, "Yeah, my 2 sons are autistic and they're in a home. And their father was good one day and died the next." And she said it was a fentanyl overdose. So you can imagine what she's going through now. And I told her we were going to be praying for her today at church, which is why I'm bringing this. So you never know the people that you're coming across in your life, that all you need to do is listen and then say, "Hey, I'm praying for you." Prayers for people everywhere who are wrestling with life's great issues, for people in places everywhere who are in the paths of the storms of life, where there's suffering, mourning, and grieving. Now, if there are any names you wish to offer up in prayer, please speak them aloud where you are. Nikki, Mark, Nancy, Debbie, Richard, Mary. And now a time of silence for the prayers in our hearts, the unspoken prayers, the sounds and sighs too deep for words that Spirit hears. And all God's children say, Amen.
Good morning. I'm Genevieve. I'm a board member and with T, co-lead of the MCC Nova's Animal Rights Ministry. Go Animals! I'm wearing my animal shirt today. Yeah, and I apologize. I'm a little disheveled. I was cleaning today, and who knew God's work could be quite so dirty? So, okay. You're very welcome. And Vicki, too. Although Vicki doesn't look like, she looks clean. Okay, well, our first reading today is from 1 Samuel 17:32 through 35, 37 through 44, and 48 through 49. It's a long one, but it's a fun one. We all know this one. David said to Saul, "Let no one be discouraged because of Goliath. I will go and fight this Philistine." Saul said to David, "You can't fight this Philistine. You're just a boy." But he's been a warrior since he was your age. But David said to Saul, "I am a shepherd of my father's sheep. Whenever a lion or a bear came and took a lamb from the flock, I went after it, struck it down, and rescued the lamb from its mouth. And if it attacked me, I would catch it by the jaw, strike it down, and kill it. God, who saved me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, will save me from the hand of this Philistine." So Saul said to David, "Go, and may God be with you." Saul clothed David with his armor. He put a bronze helmet on his head and clothed him with a coat of mail. David strapped Saul's sword over the armor, and he tried in vain to walk, for he was not used to them. Then David said to Saul, "I cannot walk with these, for I am not used to them." So David removed them. Then he took his staff in his hand and chose 5 smooth stones from the wadi and put them in his shepherd's bag, in the pouch. His sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine. The Philistine came on and drew near to David with his shield bearer in front of him. When the Philistine looked and saw David, he disdained him, for he was only a youth, ruddy and handsome in appearance. The Philistine said to David, "Am I a dog that you come to me with a stick?" And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. The Philistine said to David, "Come to me, I will give your body to the birds." When the Philistine drew nearer to meet David, David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet the Philistine. David put his hand in his bag, took out a stone, slung it, and struck the Philistine in the forehead. The stone sank into his forehead, and he fell face down on the ground. Can I just say, go David? Okay, second reading. Adapted from Uncommon Gratitude, Alleluia, for All That Is, by Sister Joan Chichester and Rowan Williams, the former Archbishop of Canterbury. Crisis and challenge test the deepest parts of ourselves. They measure what there is inside of us that is truly full of life. They ferret out the parts of us that simply refuse to die or give up. It is a truly wholesome moment, this choice for life in the face of death, or for an attempt at success in the face of failure. Such things are not about clarifying or enduring the moment. These things are about action. They require resolution. They're about negotiating the turning points in our own journey. The hallelujah moment comes when we finally realize that life is not about one thing, it is about everything. It is about the parts of ourselves that we have not recognized yet. Yes, and it's also about the parts of ourselves that are meant to go. Self-doubt, fear of failure, fear of being hurt, despair, woundedness, etc. Parts that must go if we are ever to live life in ways we never thought possible. As a result, we come to understand that there is no one single way that a life must be shaped in order for one to be happy. In fact, happiness comes from when you are finally doing what you are meant to be doing. Challenge and crisis, as Alan K. Chalmers puts it, refine life, and then you discover who you are. David faces Goliath and becomes the Goliath within him. We must all sing hallelujah and give praise and thanks for the opportunity to do the same. And now we sing.
You may stand as you're able.
Tossed and driven on the restless sea of time, somber skies and howling tempest often see the priceless shine. In the land of perfect day, when the mists have rolled away, we will understand it better by and by. By and by, when the morning comes, when the saints of God are gathered home, tell the story how we've overcome, or we'll understand it better by and by. We often destitute of the things that life demands, want of food and want of shelter, thirsty hills and barren lands. In the God of trust assured, and according to the word, we will understand it better by and by. By when the morning comes, when the saints of God are gathered home, tell the story how we've overcome, or we'll understand it better by and by. are gathered home, we'll tell the story how we've overcome, or we'll understand it better by and by. And now, Rev. Emma's reflection. The tide always turns. Shepherds rock.
Will you join me in a word of prayer, please? Loving Spirit of change, growth, mystery, God of adventure and the journey, we are blessed with so many gifts. Grant us the wisdom to open the gifts we have been blessed with in your presence. And as we journey toward your heart, grant us an awareness of your presence, traveling with us, moving in us, around us, and through us. In all the many holy names by which you are known. Amen. Sometimes things are not always what we think they are. Can I get an amen? Amen. Now, I've told this story before, and it's true. Yet there are few weeks that go by without this ringing in my head. A wonderful moment of growth and humility. Now, when I was in my clergy candidacy period in 2003, I was constantly being evaluated. They said it was the refining fire to help me to better know myself. My supervising clergy told me one time in preaching class in front of everyone, "Emma, you rock." I was like, "Oh my, thank you." She said, "No, you rock back and forth when you preach. It's distracting. Some things just can't be helped." Now, we are living in a time crazy with change. And just when we think we have reached a peak, we discover that there is more to come. Things shifting so quickly that it is sometimes hard to maintain any sense of balance. Obstacles rise up before us like giants, not only baffling us and putting us in places so new that we no longer know what to do, but at the same time causing anxiety and doubt and fear, uncertainty and despair, and occasionally anger and frustration, born out of a sense of hopelessness, anger and frustration that we often mistakenly misdirect at others. These things happening around us impact all of us, and yet at the same time we often feel ourselves standing all alone in the midst of it. This can be the thing that consumes us. This can be the thing that swallows us whole. Or it can be that which elevates us and refines our soul. Moments providing us with the opportunity to reveal ourselves, to find out who we really are, which parts of ourselves to gather, hold on to, and keep, and which parts of ourselves to remove, set aside, and cast off. I was reminded this week of a bit of wisdom I carved out ages ago. You will never be faced with obstacles without, at the same time, being given the tools to overcome them. You may, however, have to look for them. And the image of a simple shepherd digging in the wadi, a dry creek bed, in search of some suitable stones came to me very clearly. These are the times that do indeed try our souls. These are also the times that can show us and teach us who we really are as individuals and, yes, as a nation, and reveal to us the work that needs to be done in order to bring us all together again. History and our great stories teach us that there are some things that we don't know that we can do until we have done them. You ever had that to happen to you? And the only thing that leads us to do them is our belief and our confidence and our faith and our memories of where we come from, our past accomplishments, and the guiding illumination of great lives lived bravely against all odds. David was the youngest child of Jesse. As the youngest, he was often overworked and overlooked. While his older siblings followed Saul into battle, David had to stay behind to tend to the sheep. Oh, man. Now, the work of a shepherd, a common occupation of the time, hard work, not lofty, definitely not glamorous, and often literally stinks. Probably can be compared to cleaning a church some morning. But it was also good work. Work that teaches much to the soul who wishes to learn. Work that teaches humility, guidance, and responsibility. A sense of protecting those who are in your care. Someone once said that in order to be a leader of people, one must first herd sheep. There's a lot of wisdom in that saying. It is also very clear to me that few, if any, of our leaders today have ever looked at or walked behind the business end of 100 sheep. If they did, I know they would be behaving very differently. Now, the image of being a shepherd is often used in the Bible. On the one hand, because it's a common occupation, very earthy, and people were familiar with it. But on the other hand, again, it offered so many opportunities to learn great lessons that people often didn't think about, with awesome application to everyday lives. Being able to learn so much from work so simple and lowly, gathering something much larger from a task so small and common. Perhaps this says more about the nature of the individual rather than the occupation itself. Abraham, Jacob, Moses, Amos were all shepherds, and Jesus is often referred to as the Good Shepherd. Well, David was sent to the big battle, and he was sent there to carry food to his brothers. And while he was there, he just happened to witness the ongoing challenge. A huge warrior, nearly 10 foot tall Goliath, stomping around trying to inflate himself even further, making himself even bigger and more scary with every step, offering to resolve the war in the old manner. Best fighter against best fighter. Offering to fight any one Hebrew for the whole ball of wax. The war would be decided by the outcome of a single confrontation between the two of them. David hears this and he's surprised that no one is stepping up. And he expresses this. Not surprisingly, his older brother gets upset with him for being prideful and overconfident and headstrong. But word gets back to Saul. King Saul, the first king to unite the tribes. And he was no small slouch himself. He was said to be the tallest person among the Hebrews, probably over 6 foot tall. So David is taken before Saul, and he says, "Hey, I can do this. I can fight Goliath." Well, actually, he says, "Let no one be discouraged or disheartened because of Goliath." The first and the biggest enemy in this conflict. A great bundle of despair, hopelessness, and fear. The enemy that may have immobilized Saul and his army. Yet in Saul's tent, the concept of a boy against a warrior is laughable. What are you thinking? You can't do this. You're just a kid. Yet David, youngest sibling that he was, probably received this admonition as something that only served to determine him even further. He responded with something like, "Hey, I'm a shepherd by God. I rock. I have rescued weak lambs from the mouths of strong lions and bears. And if the lions and bears attack me, then I kill them." Note, he didn't kill for sport or bragging rights, only to protect his life. So Saul shrugged and forced his armor on David. Think of this for a moment. The size difference. The armor of the biggest warrior on the smallest boy. I personally don't believe it was any kind of serious attempt, but perhaps a way for Saul to show David just how crazy he was being. Yet regardless, in trying to move with everything on him, everything he was carrying, David discovered that he really couldn't be himself, so weighted down. You ever had that feeling? You can't be yourself because you're just so weighted down with stuff. In an effort to be protected, the very things that were trying to protect him were taking away his strength, his agility, and his speed. Those things were lost. No, he had to do this his way, in the way that felt right and comfortable to him. Yes, to others, clothed as he was, without any armor, probably just in a loincloth, he might seem crazy, foolish, even funny as he approached the battle line. Even to Goliath, the sight of David like this was worthy of distaste and anger, just because of how he looked, just because of who he was. Wait, you send to me a boy with a stick? What am I, a dog? A dog? Big insult at the time, by the way. And Goliath even delivered it to himself. Am I a dog? At this point, I think David's very presence and his appearance was another weapon that he yielded against Goliath, an unlikely weapon, making Goliath angry and taking him out of his usual pattern, making him feel insulted, and lighting up his rather substantial ego. As if he suddenly had something to prove, being faced with this confident young boy. A boy who wore no armor, yet who seemed to be clad with a sense of being, a confidence and a presence that transcended any armor. David casually began gathering some smooth stones from the wadi, selecting the projectiles based on his experience and his skill. Now think about the stones in a riverbed. Some of them were probably like good-sized potatoes. Then what did David do? He did not walk toward Goliath. He ran toward him. He ran toward him. OMG, the image of this little boy running toward the giant, gathering speed and momentum, while Goliath, I imagine, watched dumbfounded, wondering what was going to happen next. Well, he didn't have to wonder long. David used all his skill, his smallness and his speed, his accuracy with a sling, accuracy sharpened by years of protecting his father's sheep, skills that no warrior possessed. And he used all that he had learned to hurl a stone into Goliath's weakest spot, catching the giant completely unaware and off guard, and the stone sinking deep into his temple, and Goliath fell face first to the ground in a cloud of dust. With their champion dispatched, and having been dispatched so quickly and neatly by such a small boy, and in a way that probably many of them could not even see from a distance, don't know what happened, but want no part of it, the Philistine army turned and ran. And the Hebrew soldiers, once fearfully facing their enemy, knew exactly what to do when faced with the enemy's backside. Gave out a battle cry and chased it. The tide had turned. The journey of the Hebrews moved forward. And a story that has meaning in Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, all over the world, in fact, was born. And David, that little shepherd, began his own journey, leaving a biblical footprint second only to a scant few. What are the lessons that you have learned in your life, in your business, in your work, in your occupation, in your hobbies, that enable you to face change and obstacles, perhaps better than you even imagined? Think back to the times when you did something that you've never done before. Times when you didn't think that you would make it. Times when you rocked. Moments that changed your life. Times when you faced giants. You've done it once, you can do it again. Change. It is what you get back after making a transaction. Automatically. And change adds up. We have to navigate the challenges ahead without letting them break us or change us in ways that lead to fear, hopelessness, and despair. The way that Saul may have felt. We have to move through the obstacles and face the challenge and stand up to giants. You will never be faced with obstacles without at the same time being given the tools to overcome them. You may, however, have to look for those tools. T quoted Reverend Earl Holt in our illumination, and Reverend Holt goes on to add, quote, "Death threatens us not only at the end of our lives, but at every moment. The 1,000 little deaths of the spirit, the grievances that we carry with us, the discouragements and sorrows that weigh us down, the sense of frustration, futility, and fear that can immobilize us, make us even afraid to move or do anything." End quote. Don't let yourself get weighed down by worry. If you encounter an obstruction that baffles you, remember also the words of Wendell Berry. You rock. No, wait, that was somebody else. Wendell said, quote, "It may be that when we no longer know what to do, we have come to our real work. And when we no longer know which way to go, we have begun our real journey. The mind that is not baffled is not working. The impeded stream, the one blocked with obstacles, is the one that sings." End quote. So sing. Use all of your gifts, stand up to giants, and live your life in ways that you never thought possible. May it be so. Don't get me started. Now we come to a time to hear your thoughts, to hear anything that may have gotten stirred in your heart space this morning. Please raise your hand, please speak up, and please be brief.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
These words, they really stir a lot of things that happen in my life and my family's life. Because remember that we are immigrants. We came from Mexico City, and we have to learn a lot of things, starting with the language, the culture. This is what they do. This is what not you're supposed to do. I couldn't find tortillas at that time, and it was hard.
I know where they have them. Yeah.
So they were not even channels, really, in the TV. It was just nothing there, and we, without just knowing Spanish, so we want to watch our things that our whole culture, but now we change. But the main thing is that regular people, they don't see in front of them that all the challenges they have, and sometimes they do something, or they don't do anything, Every time that you feel uncomfortable, that you don't feel fine, it makes your brain works. That way you overcome everything. And the other thing is that when I realized that Fabricio was gay, inside of me, it was like, oh, dear God, he's going to have a lot more challenges that I had. And I will be doing all that is in my power to make it easy for him. So that's what stirs in me.
Wonderful. That's beautiful. That's great. I'm going to get you up here one of these days. Just wait.
Would this sermon have anything to do with putting on the armor of God?
What do you think?
Yeah.
Putting on the armor of God. What is the armor of God? There you go. Amen. Thank you. It's not physical. It is something else. It's something that David wore when he went into battle. Thank you.
Many years ago, I was fortunate enough to own a farm, and I had sheep. I insisted on getting sheep, and so we had sheep. So I guess I was a shepherd of sorts. It was a small flock, but it was my flock. And, while, you've got to protect them, you've got to, vaccinate them, you've got to feed them, you got to do all that stuff. The one thing that I pulled away from my experience with my sheep is sheep don't fight each other. You can give them just even a handful of grain, and they won't fight for it. They'll just come over and nuzzle and take some. They're some of the most placid creatures I've ever known. And, you can put your hands in it and get the lanolin on it. And, when you shear them, which they need to be sheared every year, you just roll them over on their back, and they just sit there. They're just totally calm, no big deal. Even if you cut them, they don't even make a noise or anything. But, the best experience of my life, I think, honestly, even right up there with having my children and everything else, was a winter night when I had to go out at 2 a.m. to feed a lamb that my ewe had rejected. And just sitting in the barn, it was cold, but we had the lantern, and the mother, the ewe, was right next to me, pushing up against me, and the pony was right next to him, and just feeding this little lamb its bottle. And, it sucked, 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 and then it stopped. And it just had this little milk thing around its mouth as a result of it. It was so precious. And just, if that's not where God would be hanging out, I don't even know where, because it was definitely magical. And sheep are magical.
Indeed. And that is exactly where God would be hanging out. And the experience that you had. Know that many shepherds down through the ages had experienced that as well. Thank you for sharing that.
This is the perfect sermon for someone like me because I've always been small of stature, smaller than any of my brothers, but I've always been the feistiest. And my childhood hero was Napoleon. So I'm also a control freak on top of it. But I've always used the story of Goliath, David and Goliath, that's the way it should be referred to, to use as an example of anything that has happened to me in my life. Anything that bad, my recovery from alcohol, my ongoing recovery from alcohol, I should say, my most recent life-threatening stroke, Goliath always comes to me.
Thank you. Thank you, T.
The story about the sheep and being a shepherd brought back a lot of interesting memories. I was a small child. My dad got us a dog. It was an Akita. If you know anything about Akita dogs, they're kind of temperamental and pushy, and it terrorized me as a small child. I'm like, and they soon had to pass the dog on to some other one who could control it. Bad choice, Dad. small children. So I never really cared much for dogs. And I'd gotten into a relationship with a lady who really liked dogs. I'm like, I don't know about this, you know. She got this black lab, and taught me a lot. Initially, I was like, it's a dog. But as I walked the dog, I learned to find my voice. Something I never really had, you know. Controlling a puppy dog and making sure they're safe and take them out for walks, and they would, you know, do the dog thing. But, you know, learning to control the dog and finding my voice, which would help me immensely through my life. Before, I would be always kind of like, I couldn't really tell anybody what to do, and I'd try to explain it to them. Like, dogs don't listen to that. They listen to, you need to stop. You know? You need to obey, kind of thing. You know, and you don't hate the dog. You're not yelling at the dog in anger. You love the dog, and the dog loves you. And yet you can still, you know, as a position I used to be in management, I, you know, never really had my voice until that dog. And it brought back a lot. Sadly, the dog wouldn't live. Another story.
But it taught you a lot. And
Yes.
I'm sure it taught you a lot that you surprisingly apply in your daily life.
Exactly.
Made you a better teacher. Yeah. Go ahead, Alice.
And I'll just try to make this short, but what resonated with me was you have the tools, you have the problem-solving ability, the resources, whatever, to figure it out, to get through it. And somewhat ironically or coincidentally, or maybe not, the two things. When back in 1989, I think, yeah, so when I decided to move to basically marry my former partner, it was a big deal. I was in a different direction, you know, and we were ready for each other, but there's a multitude of societal things that were not ready for us. Her family, her job, and all this kind of stuff. But we did it. We did it, and I you know, it was on the table for me. Do I want to do this, or do I just press on with what I'm doing? But I chose to move back and pursue that. Well, then fast forward that about 20 plus years, when it ended. Now what? You know, and you might think, well, this is just another garden variety lesbian relationship. You know, you're in there and it's done. It really wasn't like that. I mean, I hadn't had any history like that. This was, I thought, the first and the only. And then, you know, and it just didn't work that way. But here again, it was sort of like you rise up. You rise up, you find where you can get support, you deal with the challenges, and you move on. You move on.
Even if it's something you've never done before, you don't know how, you rise up and do it. And you did that on both the entry and the exit. Both were new to you. Thank you for sharing that. I've been looking at the clock a little bit. It still says 5 minutes after 6. I'll be honest with you, that's a dangerous thing to have in front of a preacher, which is definitely motivation for changing the batteries if somebody wishes before next Sunday. I want to thank you all for sharing your thoughts. You have enriched my journey.
Hello, I'm Cornelius. Good morning. You know, in the old days, people built altars in places where they encountered God, and they would offer up their tithes, 10% of the first fruits, their very best, their time, their labor, their love, just as our tithes and offerings of our time, talent, treasures are our very best. Our supportive dreams and visions and our affirmations of the community existence. We give of ourselves from a place, life, and love, and we do so with the fullness, awareness that even our very presence here in this space this morning. It is a gift, moment of grace, great grace, joy, and love. A gift given to God and to each other, community. For we know we are not only here for ourselves, we are here for each other. A human testament of hope and caring. For we give life to the community. We keep the roof over our heads, keep us dry in the rain, warm in the winter, cool in the summer. We provide food for the hungry, welcome for the guest, care for those in need, a meeting place for those who need a safe place to gather, and a place where we may reflect on our lives and life's challenges, life's beauty and life's blessings. And we do so together as a community of faith. As we do so gratefully during this act of worship, we commit our tithes and offerings and our time, talent, labor, and love to the greater things that can happen in our world. As we give back to God a small portion of what God has blessed us with. Now we sing.
We lift our voices, we lift our hands, we lift our lives up to you. We are an offering. God, use our voices, God, use our hands, God, use our lives, they are yours. We are an offering. All that we have, all that we are, all that we hope to be, we give to you, we give to you. We lift our voices, we lift our hands, we lift our lives up to you. We are an offering. We are an offering.
We gather here around the table this morning
as a part of surrounding mystery, this table that joined us together,
with our siblings, those who have come before us.
and those who have yet to walk among us.
Welcome to the table.
Because at the Metropolitan Community Church of Northern Virginia, like MCCs all over the world, we celebrate an open community.
This means that you don't need to be a member of this church or any church in order to have a place at this table.
Nor do you need to have any specific set of beliefs as to what happens at this table.
You need only be present. You have a place at this table as a child of God.
And the one who prepared this table the one who invited us here, the one who called us here to join with other followers, also invites us to remember.
That on the night Jesus was arrested and taken into custody by the authorities,
On the night before he was sentenced to crucifixion,
he gathered with his disciples, with his friends, with his chosen family for the feast of the Passover.
and then he took the bread, a simple gift of sun, earth, ground grain, and water. And he did a new thing. He broke it open, saying, "This is my body. This is my essence that I am, open for you. Take, eat, and as you do so, remember me."
And then he took the cup at the end of the meal, which was filled with the fruit of the vine, simple gift of sun, earth, crushed grape, and thyme. And when he had blessed it and given thanks for it, he held it out to them, and he said, "Take, drink. This is the covenant of the new covenant, which is poured out for you for the forgiveness of transgressions and broken relationships. This is what flows through me. This is what gives me life. Take, drink, and as you do this, remember me."
Do all who wish to receive communion have communion?
As is the way with MCCs, if you wish to receive a brief individual prayer or blessing, you may come forward as directed by our usher. There will be 2 unmasked communion ministers on this side and 1 on this side masked. Please indicate to the usher if you have a preference and proceed as you are comfortable for a brief prayer and blessing. If you do not wish, please remain seated and join in private prayer and meditation as our pianist plays softly. Come forward to the usher if you wish, just as you are.
Well, friends, once again we participate in this ritual we call communion. And we remember the words of Jesus. And we remember the blessing that God has given all of us. And what I want you to know today is that you are truly blessed. You are blessed in ways you don't even know about. You have blessings of experience and inspiration and creativity that may only come out when you face a challenge, but they're in there. Know that. And carry it with you wherever you go. Amen. And now we're going to sing, but before we sing, a brief announcement. There's a concert this afternoon in Alexandria at 5 o'clock. Mosaic Harmony will be singing. I will be singing as part of Mosaic Harmony, and it's going to be a real good time, I'm telling you right now. So if you can make it, we'd love to see you there.
If you can make it, you'll be glad you went.
You will be glad you went. It'll be a lot of fun.
What is it at?
It's at Rachel Schlesinger Hall, which is on the campus of Northern Virginia Community College on Beauregard Street, not far from Route 7. But now we're going to sing number 437. 437. Yeah, I see the number moved around.
Fixed it after the first song.
We shall not give up the fight.
Not now. At some point, we'll paint a black 4 or a white 4.
We have only started, we have only started. We shall not give up the fight. We have only started, we have only started. We have only started. Victory hand holding hand, hand holding hand, hand holding hand. Together we'll have victory hand holding hand, hand holding hand, hand holding hand. Never ever put to flight, we're bound to win. We're bound to win. We're bound to win. Never ever put to flight, we're bound to win. We're bound to win. We are bound to win. We shall not give up the fight. We have only started. We have only started. We have only started. We shall not give up the fight. We have only started. We have only started. We have only started.
So Heather pointed out to me in an effort to keep me on schedule that the clock is now running. So I don't know how it happened, but I'll mark it as a miracle of some sort. We'll take it. Thanks again to Marcy and Jamie for providing social hospitality today. Thank you so much for nourishing us in so many ways. Go forth now renewed and refreshed. Go forth whole and holy. Go forth knowing you will never be faced with obstacles without at the same time being given the tools to overcome them. You may, however, have to look for them. And finally, in this Pride Month and this season, go forth knowing that you rock in all of the most wonderful ways possible. And now may the love of God, the Creator, the grace, mercy, and peace of Jesus Christ, the Liberator, and the friendship and community of the Holy Spirit rest and abide with you, with us all, and may God's grace guide your feet until we meet again. Be at peace and go in peace.
What? Frame it to here, frame it to there,